So in our 2015 strategic planning as a firm, we came to the conclusion that we would need to increase our minimum fee, which going into 2015, minimum asset level, I should say, was 500,000. And we determined we're going to need to increase that to $1 million. But one of the concerns that we had is where we going to direct people that came to us who weren't yet at $1 million, but are seeking a fee-only financial advisory solution. So actually, it was on my plate to find the outlet where we felt comfortable referring to. We found no one that was serving that marketplace in a way that we were comfortable with, except for one young advisor that had started a practice on his own, kind of focused in this area, in this demographic, but was at the very nascent stage without a lot of resources. So what we decided to do is bring him on board, put our support behind developing something that we think was a gap in the marketplace. And so that's what happened in 2016. It was a solution for us to make sure there was an outlet for fee-only financial guidance for those that hadn't yet accumulated $1 million. And so that was the origin of Reinvest at that time. And one of the decisions that we made is to allow that service offering to operate a bit independently from Truepoint, meaning we don't want to just take the Truepoint operations and try to dilute them, so to speak, to this market. Let's figure out how to serve this market and do it in a best of class way that's not going to be colored or influenced by how we serve the retirees that might be $1 million or $3 million or more.
Now, here's where the story gets interesting and where Truepoint's willingness to acknowledge a mistake becomes a real lesson for the industry. When Commas was relaunched in 2021, they tried to serve two distinct personas simultaneously: the wealth accumulator and the near retiree or retiree who had assets between 1 and 3 million but didn't qualify for full Truepoint service. What happened next is something Abby described with real clarity.
Yeah, so when we relaunched the Commas brand, and we did that work at the end of 2020, heading into 2021, we were really attempting to capture a bigger segment than just the wealth accumulators. Really, anyone that fell under the $3 million in investable assets threshold for our kind of our core Truepoint Wealth Counsel experience. And so the idea there was kind of not one persona, but rather these two distinct personas: the careers and kids segment, and then the retirement preppers. And what was very interesting over time, over the subsequent years, was that we were finding more success attracting the careers and kids segment. You could even say growing careers, growing families, not just limited to individuals that have kids, of course, but truly that wealth accumulator segment. The branding, the client experience, and even the advisors that we hire to service the Commas offering were more aligned to that demographic. A lot of the advisors on the Commas service line are in that same phase of life. Many of them are, navigating complexity with growing families and their own careers. And we just found that there seemed to be just a better fit. And we were just really having a hard time, for people that were either in retirement or closer to retirement that were under the $3 million, attracting them to the Commas service line kept being a challenge. Forced us to really give a long, hard look at that. And a lot of that work was done last year to ultimately decide that we were going to bring back a previous service line that had always been in existence under the Truepoint Wealth Counsel brand, to really service those in that $1 to $3 million segment. But more importantly, those individuals, aside from assets being sort of one marker, like their life stage became really important here. These were individuals, again, closer to or maybe already in retirement. We started to make those shifts last year, and what we saw was really an explosion of that foundational service line, that $1 to $3 million segment, mostly driven by client referrals and team introductions. So what that's told us was that, now we're able to serve more effectively with the right offering, the friends and family members of our team members, but also our clients. So it was one of those really good learning moments. You go down a path thinking that this is the way we want to market this service offering, but just realize that practically and for a lot of reasons, it was better to segment out the two.
That's the definition of a learning organization. The data told them something was off, and they built something new instead of forcing a broken model to work harder.